Hi, my name's Sasha, and this is another episode of Into the Garden, helping you to expand your connection with nature. This episode is going to be all about hawthorn. Hawthorn is a tree or a shrub or a bush, depending on how it's been cut and shaped, and I'm going to give you some information on where you can find it in the identification, some of the history and folklore, and some of its medicinal properties. So, how do we identify a hawthorn tree? A hawthorn tree will grow between 3 to 6 metres. It's a deciduous tree, meaning that it loses its leaves in winter. And the first thing that will come out on a hawthorn tree is its tiny little leaf buds. Then after that, soon after, you will get the little flowers that come out, which are white. And after that, you will get berries in autumn, which are roughly the size of a pea. They're red. So that's really interesting to know that. You'll find the berries as well. They're an amazing fruit and they are edible. All parts are edible, the flowers, the leaves and the berries. The branches are alternate and they have thorns on them. The thorns are between 1 to 3 centimetres long, but they're not to be mistaken with the blackthorn tree. A blackthorn tree is where you get your sloes from. But this is the one that comes out in flower first. So one of the first trees that comes into flower in the spring, or even just before the spring, so it's in the early winter, is the blackthorn tree. So around where I'm living at the moment, we've got this kind of bleak countryside, and all you see is these bushes of white, and that's the blackthorn tree. But I've realised that there are some wild species of plum that come out early too. So that's also to be cross-checked if you're going to go foraging. The flowers on the blackthorn are edible too, but they're very high in cyanide and they've got a kind of very almondy strong flavour. And so there's a lot of flavourings made from the flowers of blackthorn trees. So if you see a tree covered in flowers, the first thing to come into flower in the winter, or the end of the winter, beginning of spring, that will be a blackthorn tree. It's not a hawthorn. Hawthorn comes out in the kind of May time, and it's called Mayflower because of that. Mayflower, hawthorn and mayflower are the same thing, but hawthorn has a very, very, very long history of being used medicinally and as a food. One of the things we learned was that hawthorn buds, the little leaf buds that come out first thing in spring, they are edible and they're very high in vitamin C. They're a really, really, really nutritious food source from the wild. So if you like foraging, that's a lovely little thing to pick, because the little tiny leaves, as they're just about to open, you can pick them off and eat them. And before they were called bread and cheese because they were almost like the first thing you could find in winter. You'd go and pick those little things and they were like, I don't know why bread and cheese, but that's what you used to call them. So that's very interesting to know. So the hawthorn flower has 5 little round petals and is usually white. Sometimes they can be pink tinged, but it depends on the variety of the tree. It has 20 stamens and 1 carpel in the middle. The stamens are often light green, and then they might turn pink a bit later on. And this is usually because they've been ripened, so that can vary as well. The flowers have a beautiful taste if you want to eat them. You can pick them straight off the tree, and they're very floral and quite sweet and delicious. I love hawthorn flowers. Are one of my favourites. Then afterwards, after the flowers have been out, later on they start to turn into the berries. Now the berries are also they've got quite a big stone in the middle and quite tough flesh, but there is a little bit around there that you can nibble on. You'd need quite a lot to feel full, I think, but you can eat them and they are edible, and they're often made into things like sauces or syrups. I know someone who makes a ketchup out of them with a few other berries around that time of year, like rose hips, and there's another few, I think. So that's a nice thing to do with the berries. All parts of the hawthorn tree are used medicinally in herbal medicine. It's one of my favourite herbal medicines, in fact, because it's all to do with the heart. So you can see the symptom picture here. It's all to do with the heart. Emotionally, it's also to do with love, or the inability to feel love. It can help with grief that's been affecting your heart. And it's all about being opening the heart space, opening the heart chakra, and being able to let love into your life. And on a physical level, they help with cholesterol, they help with blood pressure, they help with cardiovascular disease, they help with cholesterol. Did I say cholesterol? Help with cholesterol. And so anything that you can see is related to the heart, the circulation, and the veins. That is what hawthorn is prescribed for. I really like to use the berries for that, but I've made a beautiful tincture out of flowers, and I take that again in drop doses. But I do sometimes take it as a remedy too, because I am a kind of person where I think we all have a sort of genetic tendency when we're not feeling great to have a part of our body that sort of feels out of whack. And for me, it definitely was my heart. And I've suffered in the past from sort of palpitations and sort of tight feeling in my chest. And I think a lot of people do. And I found that Hawthorn flower tincture just magically helps that. It's a wonderful remedy. Makes you sort of feel really connected to the flowers. I don't know why. And it just brings that kind of joy that you get when you smell a rose or you smell some hawthorn flowers on a spring day. And that is what that hawthorn does. It brings that feeling into your soul, and I really like that. The berries are extremely high in flavonoids, so they are very anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. They've been proven, there's plenty of clinical trials and tests on hawthorn. I did my dissertation on it, actually, in connection with heart disease, and it was very interesting to find out. There's a lot of information out there if you want to search on it. I'm here as your guide to help you find the plant and to give you a little bit of an insight into it, but if you want to go deeper into your knowledge, there are many extremely talented herbalists out there that can give you far more information on that. I would love to show you one day a little recipe that you can make, or even how to make a tincture with it. That'd be super. And I'm going to take you now into the garden to show you a hawthorn tree. Hi, so I'm out in the garden and it's really windy, so I'm going to speak loudly in case you can't hear me. So I'm going to take you and show you a hawthorn tree and also a blackthorn tree, so you can see the difference. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera around. Okay, let's go through the long grass and we'll find a tree. So this is one that's in flower at the moment. See these little flowers? This, can't get in focus, this is the blackthorn. And you can see on its stem, really sharp, big, long thorns here. Can you see? They're really long in my hand. You've got to be careful with those because they're very sharp. And they cause quite a horrible rash when you touch them. Or so there's a lot of rubbish around here because we're renovating. So here's a tree, here, a hawthorn tree, and you can just see the little buds coming out here. Hold on, see they're much smaller in size, the spikes. Much smaller. You can see they're just tiny little spikes. And we've got the little bud coming out here. Got plastic here. Just there. Now that little bud is going to come out and be green and edible. Now you can see it's quite a big tree. We've got it going all the way up here. I'll have to come back and show you another time when they're coming out. There's another one over here. We'll go and see if we can see it. Past this oak tree. There's all dandelions in the grass. These lovely wildflowers. I love this lawn because it's never been treated, so all the flowers are... Ah look, this is an old hawthorn. You can see some of the old berries actually there from last winter. Can you see? This is the size of a berry, but it's rotten now, so we can't eat it. But the little buds will be out soon, and we'll be able to see. It's quite big. This is a hawthorn tree. I'll come back in May and take a little picture of the flowers. Ah, here's a little bud that's coming out. Can you see? It's starting to grow. Now those, you could pick that now and eat it, but wait until they come out a little bit more. And then, here's another one. You can start to see the buds there. Anyway, there you are. That's a hawthorn tree. Right, I'm back inside. Feeling a bit windswept. It's not warm outside today at all. It's all chilly. Anyway, so the last thing to be talked about is the folklore of hawthorn. So hawthorn, as you know, is called Mayflower, as its sort of nickname, and it's because it comes into flower in May, and it was one of the chief plants around the festival of Beltane, which is the spring festival on May the 1st. So they used to cut sprigs of hawthorn and decorate beautiful little flower crowns and put them on clothes and dress up in green and put lots of flowers, or hawthorn flowers, to decorate the home. As it was seen as the chief plant, and the chief plant also of the fairies. There was a lot of mysticism around the hawthorn tree, and it was well known to be a plant to be cautious of as well. You'd always have to ask the plant permission before cutting anything off it, because otherwise you could be in trouble with the fairies. And people used to take precautions against this by wearing things like bells or binding little sticks together of various trees. I think it was oak, ash and something else to protect them against the spirits of the hawthorn tree. There was also a tradition which was, they used to say, do not sleep under a hawthorn tree on Beltane Eve because you might be taken by the fairies. And funnily enough, once, a long time ago, I went on a course, a Tibetan overtone chanting course in Glastonbury, which was amazing, with a lady called Jill Purse. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. And it was a healing voice course, and we were camping in a field. So I had my little tent in the field, and they had to choose someone on the course to be the May Queen for the celebrations. They chose me, so I was dressed as the May Queen and a friend who was dressed as the May King. And we did a beautiful ceremony. Of course, there was hawthorn flowers involved, many flowers involved, and it was really beautiful. And then that night I went to sleep, and I suddenly thought to myself, oh yeah, I've heard about that thing about not sleeping under a hawthorn tree. And when I thought I'd check what tree it was, I'd put my tent under, and it happened to be a hawthorn tree. So I thought it was quite funny, and I did wonder whether I'd be taken by the fairies in the night. And I did have funny dreams all night long, but I'm still here. Although people do say that I'm a bit away with the fairies, so maybe something happened that night. Anyway, so I will soon post a little recipe or a little technique on how you can make a little tincture or a flower essence with hawthorn flowers. I'll probably end up doing that in May because they're not here yet. And when the little buds come out, I might do a short video on picking hawthorn buds and things you can do with those. But I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you have, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will see you soon for another episode on Into the Garden.